Juice, 2-2 series, obviously off of a couple losses. What's the confidence level like for this group coming back home where you guys have been so strong all year?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously would have liked to be up 3-1, but I think overall I think we played two pretty solid games on the road. Should have won at least one game there. Not the case right now. We come back home where we've been good all year. I think we showed the first few games how good we can be at home. So yeah, tied series, best out of three now. Yeah, we'll take it.
You guys seemed really in control the first 40 of both those games. What did you like about what you guys did in those first two periods, and maybe something you didn't like about what happened in the third?
Yeah, just everybody's playing really well in the first 40. I think forecheck, defensively, you name it. This is what we, worked on all year to be as good as we played now. And I think the first, 40, 45 minutes even really good. And then, you're up a couple of goals. They're chasing, you're going to sit back. That's just how it works. Every sport, doesn't matter what sport it is. If you're up 2 goals, 10 minutes left, you're sitting back and, they're throwing everything at you. And, obviously, unfortunate. I think last game, yeah, a couple of tough bounces, trying to make the right plays, all that kind of stuff, ends up in our own net. So, yeah, it sucked at a time. Now, we've moved past it. We're excited for the game tonight.
It's kind of hard to find issues with the power play when you had scored in 8 straight, but is there anything that stands out to you about the chance that you guys had in Game 4 versus the first 3 games of the series?
No, not really. I think we had some good looks. I think Kevin hits the post in the first one. Same looks we had the previous games, and he scored on him. So, I think I had a really good look from the slot as well, and I think we had some good plays going. Maybe, they're a little bit more aggressive, so if we can keep some more pucks alive in the zone, I think it's going to benefit us. But I think overall, yeah, power play was good again, I think. It's hard to score every game on the power play, but, it's being a big factor in the series, and we've been doing a really good job so far. So confidence is still high in the group, so it's important.
Bruce, if you would break down, and I don't know if there's a percentage, but between your focus on the strengths and then the focus on the areas you guys are concerned with right now.
Yeah, I think all we talk about is the strengths right now, how good we're playing, and like we said before, when you're up a couple of goals, you have to defend well, and it's it's going to be hard because they have some really good players over there, and they make plays, and 6 on 5, they're one man more than we are, so it's going to be sometimes there's going to be errors, but I think everything we've talked about, after the loss, everybody is obviously frustrated and feel like you gave that one away. But we came back yesterday on the plane, and today, this morning, everybody's back. Energy is up. Feel like same energy as when we were up 2-0 flying to Edmonton. So I think that's really important going into this game tonight.
Hilton's fingerprints seem to be all over this series. Some of maybe his best hockey he's played here. What have you seen in his game that's allowed him to excel at this time of the year?
Yeah, he's been playing really well. Especially playing against those guys too. A lot of minutes, a lot of focus. Maybe not on offense, but on defense. And when you do that, you create turnovers, you create all-man rushes, and he's been getting production, which has been well deserved because maybe he wasn't there all season. I think he's been trying to do the right things all season, but maybe puck hasn't gone in for him or the line at the time. But I think it's showing up here in the playoffs, and I think yeah, like I said, well deserved. I think he's been playing really well throughout the series, and yeah, been one of our best players for sure.
It's a 2-2 series. You guys are heading home where you've had a lot of confidence. What is the confidence level of the group coming off those games in Edmonton?
Yeah, obviously not what we want, losing 2, but coming back home where we're comfortable and confident, and, where we want to be. So we're excited, and as I said, we always just take it one game at a time here.
There were long stretches of those 2 games where you guys played really well. The first 2 periods specifically. What did you like about what you did in those periods versus maybe something you felt went against you in both third periods?
Yeah, we got out to quick starts, each of those games, and I feel like we had the shooting mentality. We're attacking, so that's what kind of we're doing in the first 2 periods, and we just got to keep doing that the whole game.
Q, how tough is it to defend against them in a pull goalie situation when they got the 6th guy on there?
Yeah, they're, they got a lot of good players over there, and obviously having an extra guy out there helps them. So, it's tough. They're good players, and we should be better there.
How much have you been able to move on? Were you able to move on quickly from the other night, or?
Yeah, it's obviously tough. Those are plays, that I make all the time, and I was just trying to do the right thing, not shoot it for the net and just chip it out. So, Bouchard made a great play, but that's on me to be hard on that puck and get that out.
You guys made a point to get home ice for this series during the regular season. It went well in games 1 and 2. What are you looking forward to for now a best 2 out of 3 still with home ice?
Yeah, we've been confident all year on home ice, and obviously the crowd's been great in the playoffs. So we just got to use that to our advantage here, and go out there tonight and start the same ways that we've been doing, and just keep that up for the full 60.
This is why you fought hard to get home ice, right? This is it. This is the moment.
No, exactly. Yeah. As I said, we're just comfortable here, confident, and if we do the full 60 that we know that we can, we're confident in our game.
I think when you look from outside, moving on from disappointing losses might seem like a difficult thing. Is it really that difficult, or is it easy for you guys to move on and just focus on what is ahead of you?
Yeah, obviously in the moment, it's, tough, but, as the days go on, you got to learn to forget about it. You talk about playoff hockey all the time, the highs and lows, and, when we're up 2-0, there's a lot of highs, and, you kind of got to keep it even keel there. Then, when it's low, same thing. You got to, kind of just keep a level head and, just look forward to the next game.
How much do you lean on all the good things that you've done in this series? Because certainly looks like you guys have done a ton of good things, even though it's a 2-2 thing. And
yeah, we feel good about our game, where it's at, and for most of the part, I think we played well, and a lot of guys can agree on that. So being in position 2-2, it's still anybody's series here, but honestly, it's best of 3, and we got home ice advantage, and we feel confident with that.
Byfield has seemed to have his fingerprints on pretty much every game in this series. Have you seen him kind of elevate his game at this time of the year in the series?
Yeah, I think every playoffs, Phil kind of does that, and throughout the year, he's maybe not been on the score sheet all the time, but he's such a valuable player for us, and what he does on a nightly basis, sometimes goes unnoticed to some people, but to us, he's one of the heart and soul guys of our team.
Yeah, maybe just a thought on Darcy and the Vezina nomination. How'd you guys find out? What's that like when you find out he's honored that way?
Yeah, I've been his biggest supporter all year. I've been pumping his tires all year, so he's been amazing for us, and he's been amazing for us in playoffs as well. So having a guy back there, you just feel comfortable and confident, having him. But there's so much to say about him, not just his on ice game, but also what he does off the ice as well.
Okay, good.
About time on ice usage, given how much you shortened the bench in the last couple of games?
It probably had an effect. Somebody asked, I think Eric asked in after the game in Edmonton, and it, I said it could. It could probably is better answer than could, but I'm trying to be boring there too with that answer. Doesn't make for much fun, but it's the truth. It probably had an effect on that game, but I don't think it carries forward to this one.
Can you continue to do that?
I hope so. I think we're 29 seconds from winning the game, and probably wouldn't even ask me that if we had won the game, but we didn't win in overtime. We didn't look a little sluggish, so that's a fair question coming forward. So, I would say if we're going to go overtime and double overtime, probably that won't be working out very well for us. But, I might mix some more guys in and get a little bit more. That was the intention. Sometimes it goes different ways. You always start with good intentions, and sometimes you got to react. So.
Jordan Spence played 79 games for you. He obviously chewed some good minutes for you over the course of the season. So what's kept him from chewing some good minutes for you in the series, and what could he bring to your lineup this evening?
He'll be back in tonight, and again, I will talk about how much ice time he gets after the game, but he'll be back in tonight. He's had different times during the season where he sat out, got a reset, come back in and played really well. So that's all we're expecting here is for him to come back in, get a little reset, play really well, and then just contribute where he's needed.
Do you talk any other changes today?
There could be. Again, Evie, I'm just not, I think I set a precedent. I'm not going to get into too much of the lineup in the mornings. You guys will have to just wait and see till tonight.
When you have a player like Jordan who comes back into the lineup, hasn't been out, do you make a point of either you or DJ talking to him, or do you just don't want them to be overwhelmed by the moment.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that, for the guy who's coming back in?
Well, I think it's no different than the regular season. I think, and I'm sure if you asked each individual player, they would not always agree with this. And at different points in the season, they might give you different answers. Part of our jobs as the coach is to support all our players, whoever they are, and to feel like they've been supported and understand when there's decisions sometimes, they're never personal, and sometimes they're not always based on play. There's different factors that weigh into these decisions. So we've done this with Spenny more than once, and it's the same. Slap him on the back. He knows we believe in him. Get out there and start playing. So if you make too big of a deal at one point, then you got to try to, it's just kind of the same. And if he feels like the coaches don't support him, he would have probably not gotten this far this season.
Don't want to read too much into the power play last game after it scored in 8 straight, but have you noticed ways that they are trying to make adjustments on the fly to compete with how good the power play has been for you?
No, not necessarily. I mean, listen, the whole game comes down to execution. Special teams execution, face-off execution. Sometimes you just execute better than the other team, and sometimes they just execute better than you. You got to give them credit, tip the hat, and then you just square it up, and then you go back in there swinging again at one another. So there are tactical changes that are made within series, no question, but a lot of times, the majority of it is just execution.
Jim, how much does home ice, having the last change factor into into managing minutes, particularly those maybe giving a few minutes in certain situations? How much does
that has an effect. Yeah, there's no question. Could I put a number on it out of 100? It would be difficult for me to do that, but that definitely does impact decisions on who's going on the ice and typically for how long and all those types of things.
And you've obviously, you say, trusted, DJ to run the defense for you. How much is it solely on him in terms of doling out the minutes to guys, or do you and DJ kind of discuss?
Yeah. The only discussion would be if he would come to me and ask me anything. I mean, I trust him wholeheartedly. He makes decisions. He's, again, an excellent coach. So if he wants to come to me and there's some times, what do you think? Then I'll give him my opinion. Otherwise, he's got that part covered pretty well.
Are you willing to discuss why you chose Taylor Lewis over Alex Turcotte after game 1?
No, I think it fits in with the basically the lineups. Just not going to spend a lot of time on the lineups.
Did we talk earlier in the series about the difference between the team resetting in between games and the outside world resetting in between games? It's obviously quicker for the team to do so. What do you focus on in those moments to just leave the last game in the past and get quickly into the next game?
Well, I think everybody, you have the emotion of the evening, Dennis and I. It can happen, right? And everybody's all charged up and you put your heart into it, and then when it doesn't go your way, you're disappointed. You get a night's sleep, you start fresh, you have breakfast, and then you're on to the next one. I don't think it's that hard, to be honest with you. I'm trying to draw the analogy for you guys. You've had not a great day, and you wake up the next morning, you get a coffee, and the sun's out, and you go have a better day. And especially the way these guys are trained. I mean, they're professionals. They're trained night after night, 82 games in a long season. So maybe it's easier for them because they've had to go through those rigors of that type of a schedule. But I don't see any where you get up, and, man, it's getting close to May. We're playing. We got a 2 out of 3. We got home ice. There's so many things to be excited about. So it's pretty easy, I think.
Does the team need an emotional boost after Sunday night?
Sorry?
Does the team need an emotional boost after Sunday night? It was a very emotional.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it fits in just how I answered the question. I think the emotional boost is getting home, seeing your family, getting ready to play at Crypto tonight. That's probably the boost that you need.
Coach, when you get to this stage of a series, it becomes like you say, 2 out of 3. All the first few games, all the after whistle stuff, that stuff's kind of starting to disappear now. Kind of stick to more hockey.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of that the
Yeah.
whole series, but I would say there's probably been less and less as we've gone on. I think both teams realize the stakes as you progress to game 5. So I would agree with that. Generally, Evie, but you never know. It's hockey. It's the beauty of it. you don't know who's going to get mad at each other. In hockey, and even after hockey games sometimes.
Are you at all surprised that there hasn't been a whole lot of that compared to other series that you've seen, especially the history given these two teams?
Well, yeah, I would say maybe, and somebody's asked this question earlier, that both teams' power plays, have done pretty well, and so that's always a bit of a deterrent in and of itself.
Jim, it's been around a week since the series started. Any update on the progress of Tanner Janelle?
I guess still week to week. Yeah, nothing more than we announced already. Okay.